Have you ever experienced a state of mind where you were so focused and absorbed in what you were doing that you end up losing track of time and everything else just kind of fades away in the background? If so, then you've been in the zone. Being in the zone, which is also known as flow, is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when you are fully engaged and immersed in an activity that challenges your skills and abilities. It is a state of optimal performance and enjoyment where you feel confident, creative, and satisfied. Being in the zone can have many benefits for your personal and professional life. It can boost your productivity, boost your creativity, can increase your learning abilities, and just make your overall well-being better. It can also make you happier and more fulfilled in your activities and your hobbies. But how can you enter the zone more often, and how can you stay in there longer? For me personally, I learned about flow state through gaming. As I said earlier, losing hours to just playing one single game, it was something that I was completely used to, but I never thought about how it actually happened. In the religious and philosophical tradition that became known as Taoism, the concept of non-action achieves its purest definition in the Tao Te Ching, the classic text that is attributed to 6th century BCE thinker Lao Tzu. Sorry if I mispronounced that. There's no proof that he ever truly lived, but if he did, it should have been somewhere around the 5th and 6th century BC, which makes him around the same lifetime as Confucius. A popular concept that emerged from Taoism is Wu Wei, roughly translated to non-action, effortless action, or the action of non-action. Another more modern way we can describe Wu Wei is the state of flow, but it is most commonly known as the zone. Like I said earlier, when people are in the zone, they engage in action without faltering. They simply move through time and space effortlessly. There are no upper limits. Worries don't exist because you have full confidence in your innate abilities. There are no negative thoughts, no tilting, no spiraling. Everything seems to just flow. The Tao Te Ching describes Wu Wei as a paradox in which dualistic tensions like passivity and aggression resolve. Kinda like the concept of yin and yang. Oh my god, I just got that. Okay, so the passage in question reads like this. That which offers no resistance overcomes the hardest substances. That which offers no resistance can enter where there is no space. Few in the world can comprehend the teaching without words or understand the value of non-action. The heart is the center of wisdom in Taoism, not the head. It values feeling and intuition over logic and reason. It teaches us that we can learn more by unlearning than by education. Not only that, but it claims that we already have the answers and knowledge inside of us, and we need to unlearn what society has taught us in order to access them. One must detach from the mind to comprehend the mind. It's kind of like that bell curve meme with like the guy and the monk and then the angry nerd, and yeah, also sorry if that is offensive. Furthermore, if it still isn't clicking at this point, haha, he said the title, here's Bruce Lee explaining the same mindset with his famous "be like water" quote.
This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
The term flow state describes a mental state in which a person is completely focused on a single task or activity. They are directing all of their attention towards the task, and they do not experience many thoughts about themselves or their performance. They are in the zone. This state of mental synchronicity is a very powerful feeling, where you are not only very productive, but you also feel really good while doing it. You don't have to force yourself to do work or work hard for that matter. The second you get started, time is already up or you have already finished your task. It seems as if you are just flowing through time in a way that feels more than effortless in whatever you are doing. The more Western academic concept of flow comes from the field of positive psychology. Positive psychology is labeled as a study of things that help people bring out and encourage the best parts of themselves. Basically, a study of helping others thrive. This term was cemented by, get ready for it, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian-American psychologist who was essentially the main pioneer of the positive psychology movement. Many moons ago, most people would just say that relaxation was the key to happiness, but after taking a look at the work that Michal did over the years, it's pretty clear to see that this isn't really the case anymore. He is quoted as saying, "The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult or worthwhile." According to his studies, most people are at their happiest when they are in a state of flow. It's when they are fully immersed in a challenging task, almost feeling one with not only the task at hand, but every single detail of every single step. When someone reaches the state of mind that you are feeling yourself not only being pushed to the limit, but surpassing it even for the slightest second, it unlocks something in your brain that proves to yourself that at the end of the day, Lindsay Lohan was right. The limit does not exist. We humans feel our best and do our best when we are proving ourselves, and sometimes others, wrong. Researchers have proposed two main theories for more scientific and mechanical reasons on how flow affects the brain. The transient hypofrontality hypothesis, first try by the way. In this theory, executive function, working memory, inhibition, and problem solving, it temporarily declines. This decline prevents a person from actively thinking about themselves, enabling them to fully focus on the task or what they're doing. Functional MRI studies have suggested that there is a lower activity in the prefrontal cortex, an area which is involved in executive functioning during flow. The other main theory is the synchronization theory of flow. In this theory, different regions of the brain communicate better during a period of flow. A person is better to control and coordinate their activities, which would suggest that, on the other hand, they are having higher executive functioning. People who support this theory would point to neuroimaging studies during things like hypnosis and meditation, which would suggest higher levels of activity in the frontal cortex. From the perspective of neuroscience, these triggers drive adrenaline and dopamine into our system. This is regardless of however you believe flow is triggered. Evolution has equipped us with the ability to tighten our focus and increase our present moment awareness under volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous conditions. In order for the flow to flow, we must be present in what researchers call the deep now. So as a non-scientist, this feels like two different paths leading to the same result, which makes sense because no two people are alike. As you'll see in this next section, with so many different ways and combos to trigger a flow state, who's really to say what the one singular answer is? From the research I did, it seems that there are about 20 flow triggers, which are arranged by 5 categories. I won't go into every single trigger out of the 25, but I'll go over the main categories so you can kind of get an idea of what lies within the final details and finer details and nitty-gritty. Is the mindset of your flow driven by passion, the pursuit of mastery, or to finally mark off that last mission in your quest list, personal, fictional, or otherwise? While it may seem and feel obvious, why you are doing a task will go a long way in determining how you tackle it. Next, we have focus. Being able to give something your undivided attention is more powerful than you may think. Goals can be defined as specific or as obtuse as you would like, whether it's something as simple as just clear this area, reach this level, or master this weapon until I get the ultimate version of it. Giving yourself a rewarding feedback loop that pushes you a little further and allows you to feel confident in what you have already learned allows you to also focus on what lies ahead. Number 3, creativity. To me, this is the biggest trigger and motivator of a lot of my own personal flow state. To me, the feeling of creating something from nothing just literally does something to my soul. It's a feeling I would confidently call elevated or serendipitous. It feels so right. Being able to recognize the patterns someone used in painting a miniature, allowing the curiosity and drive of my want to grow as just someone who considers himself an artist and someone who loves to create, it leads to me wanting to make risks myself and trying to do something outside of my comfort zone. Once the unknown and the difficult has become part of the ritual, it allows you to clear your mind of the world around you and shift yourself and your energy into a singular goal that you have set. A change of scenery can do a lot in helping you get into an easier state of flow. This is why outdoors people like to be outdoors and people feel so chipper after getting back from a vacation. Because for a short period of time they can forget about external distractions and other environments and just be in a spot and in circumstances that would allow themselves and their minds to truly flow. One of the sub-triggers of this category is called deep embodiment. This one I would really describe as the moment where your actions and your awareness merge. This has often been compared to having that feeling of being one with your surroundings. As someone who paints miniatures, I would compare it to the point where basically the brush is just an extension of your finger. You can almost feel the miniature against the tip of the brush. Or, for when you're driving a car, and in a way, your body feels like an extension of the car itself. It's that deep embodiment where you become one with the car or one with whatever that allows you to really be just in that thing. And the fifth overall trigger category is group. Sometimes the zeitgeist and the hype can actually be used for good. I personally feel like this personification of a hive mind or psychic gestalt is best exemplified in jam bands or jam sessions. You have a group of people coming together to play music with no specific agenda or song list or even sometimes genre. You just become one with the music and you let the notes flow as you and the group of other individuals mentally connect in such a way that communication is done through rhythm and notes as opposed to words and dictation. I personally find the trigger of blending egos especially interesting. More often than not, during flow, your ego is temporarily suppressed. You feel like you are on a higher plane of thinking and your vision broadens beyond the narrow scope of your usual way of seeing the world. The moment you lose your ego within a group setting, your brain will translate any feeling of anxiety to a need to make more impact and to express more creativity. So with all that taken into account, I hope the following video game examples will help you figure out not only your personal flow triggers, but also they'll maybe help you figure out how to set up the circumstances necessary for you to go into a flow state easier. With me being a lifelong RPG nerd, I see everything through like stats and buffs and dice rolls and stuff like that, but I'm pretty confident that you'll be able to find ways to make this work in, the different avenues of your life and your own hobbies and all that fun stuff. So, Dark Souls is famous for kind of beating the flow state into you. Nakey Jakey's video on Elden Ring, which is the culmination of FromSoft's work up until this point, was actually the inspiration for this video. When he said the line, "when it clicks," that's basically when this whole video came to me. To me, when something clicks, you've just unlocked a flow state previously unavailable to you. You understand the world in a fundamentally different way that allows you to do things previously thought unavailable or unable to be done by you. Here's a brief overview of the mechanics of the Dark Souls series as a whole, but in my opinion, Dark Souls 3 is the peak version of this design philosophy. To me, it hits the triggers like mastery, challenge and skill, pattern recognition, curiosity, and the sense of ritual. Like think about whenever you're doing a corpse run, trying to go back to the boss, or when you're, chugging a bunch of potions and buffs and stuff like that, trying to get ready for a fight. That's part of the ritual. In this game, the environments are beautiful and just completely awe-inspiring, but still diddly enough that you have to be focused on your surroundings. Thus, the game kind of forces you to stay focused on your pre-established goal or mission. I would argue that the game has a simple but deep combat system that requires skill, strategy, and timing. You have to learn the patterns and weaknesses of each enemy, dodge their attacks, and strike when the opportunity arises. You also have to manage your stamina, health, and equipment, as well as deal with environmental hazards and traps. All of these elements create a high level of challenge and feedback that keeps you engaged and motivated to overcome the obstacles that are set right in front of you. The non-linear and interconnected world encourages exploration and discovery. Hidden paths, treasures, quicker death, it's all fair game when you know that there actually might be something between that nook and cranny. Since you don't know if this weird looking rat named Patches is a friend or a foe, you need to be alert and curious at all times. This makes the rest and respite a positive feedback loop with the system of bonfires, which are checkpoints that allow you to rest, level up, and replenish resources. The game is infamous for not telling you much about the lore, the characters, or the overall plot that you literally force yourself into. But rather, it gives you clues through item descriptions, dialogues, cutscenes, and environmental details. You have to piece together the fragments and interpret them in your own way. You end up with an experience where you are allowed to take a character you created from scratch and insert them into this beautiful yet despaired world, where the impact and consequences of your decisions grows with your in-game strength and knowledge. There's also a sense of belonging and community in being able to say that you've beaten a Souls game. They're not easy games by any means. They require you to focus, pay attention, learn from your mistakes, and most importantly, persevere through just overwhelming odds. But in that experience, you see yourself grow in ways that you didn't think was possible. You conquered a game known for being some of the hardest in modern gaming history. If you can do that and do it relatively unscathed, then you realize that maybe some of the mental limitations in your life don't exist either. As a transition, I'm going to talk about the game Monster Hunter Diary Poke Poker Aru Village. The game was a collaboration between the Monster Hunter team at Capcom and FromSoft. And so far, this is the first collaboration within the shared Dark Souls and Monster Hunter universe. Don't look it up, just trust me. Also, most importantly, this game featured a collaboration with Sanrio. This collaboration included limited edition plush dolls based on the two crossover characters, a feline, a Monster Hunter feline wearing a kitty costume, and vice versa, a kitty wearing a Monster Hunter feline outfit. First editions of Monster Hunter Diary also came with a product code which could be entered in to win a 1 of 100 limited edition plush dolls or 1 of 1,000 phone straps. Also in this game, you could obtain the following Hello Kitty themed items: a costume, a house theme, and decorations. Finally, this is your daily reminder that Hello Kitty is not a cat. She is a little girl named Kitty White and is a British schoolgirl who was born in the suburbs of London. She is a friend, but she is not a cat. She's never depicted on all fours. She walks and sits like a two-legged creature. She does have a pet cat of her own, however, and is called Charmy Kitty. That you can go look up. Alright, for those who aren't in the know, Monster Hunter is a popular action role-playing game series that challenges players to hunt monsters. The game is known for its deep and rewarding combat system, its extensive customization options, and its cooperative multiplayer mode. Previous versions of this game are still being played to this day, with people easily clocking in triple-digit hours. So here are the points that I think that MonHun hits that makes it a flow state that is just oh so good. Also, this was the first game that I ever played that I really had to let it click. This was a game that kind of inspired me and told me that if I could learn the mechanics of a game like this, I could easily tackle a Dark Souls game. So off the bat, the main difference between Dark Souls and Monster Hunter would be the fact that MonHun funnels and forces its flow triggers mainly through its gameplay. I've been playing the games for like 10 years. I have no idea what the story is. Both games have similar combat philosophy about committing to your attacks and being aware of your surroundings, special attacks, monster invasions, things like that. The biggest differentiator between the two games would be that Monster Hunter's main attractions, the monsters, don't have their health displayed on screen. Instead of spending your time just staring at a bar whittled down, you are spending extra time focusing on telegraphed attacks and the surrounding environments for anything that you can use to your advantage. The player also chooses from 14 different weapon types, each with its own moveset, mechanics, and playstyle. As a lover of the charge blade and hunting horn, when I'm in the zone, I feel a sense of rhythm between me, my weapon, and the monster that I'm fighting. What is normally a long and grueling battle ends up feeling like a dance with a hint of the old ultraviolence. The game creates a sense of urgency and excitement by imposing time limits on quests and having dynamic events such as monster turf wars, environmental hazards, and smaller creatures and other little surprises. And finally, the community itself is among some of the best and most passionate in gaming as a whole. The way that co-op works is that you can send out an SOS signal during a hunt, and it'll summon a real-life player to aid you. Also, this player is proactively looking to help people that need it, so it's a really easy way to not only get over a hump that you're trying to break through, but this is a great way to meet a potential new hunting buddy and get some of that group flow going. I'm not going to rephrase that. I don't know if a lot of people really consider these two games similar, like maybe cousins or something like that, but after watching or listening to this video, hopefully you do. These two games are infamous for being slow burn games. They require more time and attention in order for all of the systems, mechanics, and non-verbal cues to kind of coalesce into a comprehensive experience. It takes a while for it to click. So I propose that the next time that you feel like something isn't clicking, see if there's something about it that gives you a bit of a positive trigger instead. So while those two games changed the way that my brain processed video game gameplay and mechanics, this final game and most recent game changed the way that I do anything even slightly personal or creative or expressive from this point going forward.
In simple terms, not just a friend, a legend. He's not the kind of man who takes kindly to captivity. The cult captured him. I almost feel sorry for them.
So how are people already spending so much time in this game? From what I've experienced so far, it has captured nearly all of the 20-25 flow triggers that we have mentioned up until this point, and it all just kind of culminates into like nearly limitless options in regards to how you approach situations and in regards to how you approach combat. And while it may be the closest thing to a digital D&D experience, I would say that this is more because of the amazing work of Larian Studios than it would be the D&D 5e system. As someone who recently got into tabletop games over the last like 4 or 5 years, and as a lifelong player of grid-based video games like Final Fantasy Tactics and more recently XCOM, this game broke my way in the best possible way. I've seen the clips of Critical Role and their infamous rivalries with tables and doors and things like that, but I'm a visual learner. Seeing all the ways that scatter and clutter and terrain could be used in game with combat just completely changed the way that I saw and interacted with the world. Playing this game changed the way that I view RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons as a whole, because now I have a fundamental understanding of the true depth of my improvisational options. I could easily mention specific moments for literally each of the 25 triggers, and I'm only 30 or so hours into Act 1, and my party's only level 4. We're still just cleaning out the rest of the crash site. And for those of you who don't normally play these types of games, but you also found yourself sinking in ungodly hours into this game since launch, let's at least break down the reasons why I think this is the case. So first and foremost, in regards to mindset, the game is an obvious work of passion. For many gamers like myself, they've been waiting for a game that gives you this degree of autonomy as you fulfill whatever mission or purpose that you want to within the game. This would include playing the game as a certain style, or to foster a certain relationship with a specific companion, or to reach a certain ending. Not only are you given an incredible sense of agency, but being able to just constantly see the repercussions of your actions as it rolls on down the hill is just fascinating. With focus, being a father of 4 and trying to squeeze in time to play games, paint miniatures, and create content, having the focus is so important. Setting manageable goals to optimize flows is something that I'm working my ass off with right now, and I treat most of my gaming sessions as episodic in how I approach them. Instead of trying to do the entire goblin camp in one go, I've been literally doing one section per night, almost like an IRL D&D session. I've dealt with each goblin boss separately, with the climax of that episode in my head being whether or not my lying and scheming paid off, or if it's going to end up in a fight. Consider the giant pools of blood that you might see in this footage. Consider those spoiler warnings in regards to how I handled the goblin camp. If a fighter situation is taking especially longer, then it just becomes a 2-part episode, baby. But I really do like the in-game resting system when it's not abused. It does a really good job of encouraging a feedback loop, as well as forcing you to go back to your camp for the long rest, which makes you take a second to kind of organize your party, organize your loot, and really think about how you want to handle your next move. One of the selling points of modern D&D is the ability to be creative both in-game and in a meta level via your character's actions and your characters themselves. Yes, Pathfinder fans, I know. Baldurs Gate allows you to flex a similar level of creativity via the simple ability to just shove, throw, and dip your weapon, along with all the other class-specific abilities given in the game. Seriously, I'm about to rename my adventure group Clips, and everyone will be nicknamed Pusha T.
And I just want to let y'all know, I'm your pusher. The world is about to feel something that they never felt before. Come on.
I spend more time treating the game like an immersive sim by stacking crates in the hopes of passing a locked door, only to realize that the key was on me the whole time. When you realize there's literally no wrong way to play, you can drop the ego at the door and go as obtuse or as depraved as you want in regards to how you problem solve. A rich environment in regards to flow triggers is a combination of novelty, unpredictability, and complexity. Like any good dungeon master, BG3 provides this in spades. No 2 scripted encounters will run completely the same. You can't even obtain all the companions in a single playthrough. I didn't even know Minthara was able to join your party until after I started looting her corpse. I didn't get a chance to capture it, but I definitely let out an audible oh shit when I realized what I had done. On top of that, there's also the creative risks that you can take with things like combat. Carlite got disarmed and still needs to cause some pain? Pick up the goblin or halfling and use them to beat their friends into submission. Grab all those crates and barrels out of your backpack and just start chucking them. Also, if you're like me, the visual depth of some of these environments are just brain melting. Realizing that the goblin camp, which was previously a religious temple, held a secret entrance to the Underdark, rabbit holes like that in games just hypnotize you into going further and seeing what else is just behind that locked gate. Seriously, that moment gave me some chills that I hadn't gotten since descending the elevator in Elden Ring to get to the underground city under the Sophia River. And for the last category, having shared goals with your companions helps keep your main character on the road forward, but shared ideals with your companions, whether fictional or not, are the things that cause you to focus on building a rapport with certain people. On top of that, group composition is essentially a blending of egos. Everyone needs to utilize the talents and the rest of the group in order to not die. Encouraging and rewarding players with massive wombo combos through experimentation is something that you should proudly consider big brain. But the crazy part is that it was entirely by design. And that Jimmy Neutron brain blast that led to that combo that you discovered, that was your flow state firing off so hard that you had inadvertently realized the cohesiveness and depth of a fictional universe. And obviously, with this being a role-playing game, constant feedback and communication based on your decisions it's the experience. So to really give you an example of this, I rescued Volo and then I let him try to rescue me. I was so engrossed in the decision that I made that I saw it through to the end. And boy, am I glad I did. Allowing myself to be in the deep now and dropping my ego in fear of repercussions, I was able to see the game and therefore the game world in a whole new way. Alright, so I have a confession to make here. This video itself, it was written by Flow State. I didn't write this script all at once, but I wrote large chunks of it at once and smoothed things out as I went along. If you've made it this far, you're either surprised or you're not surprised. I guess I only did something wrong if you feel nothing about that reveal. Me being a full-time father, husband, worker, and on top of my hobbies of video games, role-playing games, miniatures, and content creation, learning how to make the most out of my personal time that I get just to myself has been pivotal in not only my personal mental health, but also maintaining some semblance of a half-decent work-life balance. Here are some of my personal tips. 1. Set goals and limits. Be okay with stopping at a place you don't want to. The biggest benefit of a flow state is the ability to do more concentrated work in a smaller window of time. Knowing that you've created a hard stop will not only allow you to enter a flow easier, you'll also be able to create a feedback loop to come back to by having the ability to process the work that you've done within whatever parameters you've set up. Number 2, prep if possible. As Batman and Buttstuff have been trying to show us, preparation is paramount. If you set aside 1 hour to play a game but spend almost half that time messing with patches, loadouts, and other esoteric things, you're giving yourself the equivalent of flow state blue balls. If able, set aside the time to gather your materials, prepare your paints, get your 3D printing file ready, start updating or installing your game or what have you. Do what you can, when you can, to allow yourself the absolute most time possible to not only enter a flow state, but to fully utilize the crap out of it. Number 3, stop the flow if you stop feeling it. Just go do something else. If you're trying to force yourself to push through to your goal that's a little bit different, in my opinion, there's a big difference between wanting to break your personal record and just not being in the mood to watch a certain movie, play a certain game, or paint a certain miniature. Working on the things that you feel most drawn to can sometimes end up being the most efficient path forward. And my final tip, number 4, journey before destination. Sometimes you're trying to get into a flow so you can work towards mastery. Or you want to be immersed in a completely different environment for a set amount of time. Similar to setting goals and limits, make sure you are aware about what your mindset and mission is. Going back to miniature painting, trying to initiate flow to bulk paint a 1,000-point combat patrol is a completely different mood and mindset and flow state than it would be than to work on a singular model for the sake of wanting to improve your detail work, your blending, and things of that nature.
Alright, it's getting really late and you've been spending a lot of time with me, so let's go ahead and wrap up here. Yeah, thank you for spending another long ass time with me. I really want to know what you guys think about this subject. Any games, any techniques, anything like that that help you guys encourage your own flow state. And yeah, other than that, the biggest thing that I really, really love and appreciate is just some feedback, comments, anything like that. Like, I mean, you don't have to leave a comment for the algorithm. I just really want to know what you guys think, how I can improve, maybe even just some interesting stuff that you would like me to talk about. So yeah, so we'll see how quick my next video comes out. But yeah, other than that, thank you for your time, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. My kids start school this week, so it's gonna be busy, but thank you again. Bye.